And I think when you start doing that, you start to realize that maybe what you're doing isn't actually what you want. And it starts opening up kind of some avenues to make that happen.
So like, think about this, man. We've only met like on camera once or twice.
Yeah.
And we correspond through Slack. And you were able to hit that to where I was just like, this is perfect. Like,
That's awesome, man.
that's
Thank
fucking talent, man. Like, that's awesome.
Appreciate that.
All right, let's get into the show.
Okay, cool.
Well, I might carry some of that in. I might actually keep that little part of us connecting via 2 messages in Slack and like the way we work together.
Yeah. I find it kind of weird because like we haven't really like you said, there's only been a couple of calls, but like I for some reason kind of think of you as like a friend now, and I've never really met you.
It's awesome.
So
it's awesome.
Cool. Yeah.
That part needs to make it in the show. Well, I mean, so like this kind of all plays into just my belief of like just following your passions and the right things happen. Like we got connected for a reason, and my hope is that I keep you busy as hell with pursuit. Like I'm turning out so much content, and you're like, dude, slow it down. I can't do as much.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we met each other for a reason, and we've grown and progressed. And like you listen to me every week, and you listen to me talk about some like personal stuff and my views. So it's not surprising that that's there. And I just get excited about the work that you turn out, because it's like when I saw the little demo and the stuff you had on Upwork, I was like, I like this guy's style. And truthfully, like I liked your style. Like when I saw your picture, I was like, okay, this dude's got style to him. He's modern. He's for lack of a better term, sound like an old guy. He's hip. So I was like, this guy, I'm gonna give this guy a try, and it was perfect. Which I think this is like a perfect intro. Kind of covers how we met up on Upwork, and we took our relationship off there pretty quick, so you could make a little bit more money. But I got to a point where I needed help with video production, and I maxed out my capacity, and that's how we got connected. But Tyler, why don't you give everybody your own personal introduction to who you are, and then we'll kind of talk about the how and the why and what it's meant for you to take your passion of what it is you're doing, not just professionally, but just in life, and made that really the center of what you're doing, and you've built your life around that. So give your intro first.
Okay. Well, my name's Tyler Galbraith, and I do freelance video and graphic design and kind of just creative work. I guess my journey to where I am now kind of started with I went to school for something completely different. I took construction engineering. And when I got out of school, I worked for a corporate real estate company, and I did project management for them for any construction projects with their accounts and stuff like that. And I liked the job, and I had a lot of fun doing it, and I made a lot of money. But then I started traveling a bit, because it was the first time I started getting paid vacation and stuff like that. And I hated going back to work. Like I really enjoyed kind of the life of like being on a beach, not really caring about a whole lot. And then I'd come back and ride the subway and get up, to walk in minus 30-degree weather to work and crap like that. So me and a buddy of mine kind of made a pact that we'd save up for a year, and we would go to Southeast Asia and just try to make like some sort of career type of thing. And so that's what we did. We moved out to Bali, the two of us. We both lived there for about a year. And while I was there for the first like 7 months or so, I didn't work at all. I blew through all my money. And then, but like maybe a year before I moved to Bali, I started taking photos and stuff as a hobby. And so as I was there, I started getting more into photography and videography, and I started picking up random jobs, making commercials or social media content for other people in Bali. And it just slowly started to build out of that. I stopped doing anything that required me to be in a specific place to work. So I stopped doing actual photography and videography and switched completely to editing, because I realized that I wanted to be able to move around quite a bit. And this way, all I needed was in. So that's kind of how it all started. And then I really fell in love with surfing while I was in Bali. So that's become basically the reason for why I'm ever where I am. Um,
Hmm.
I just find that it makes me a happier guy if I can start my day with, 2 hours in the water and soak up some sun, get some exercise. And so that's it. Everything just kind of, I try to form everything around me being in places that I like, doing things I like with people that I like. Um, and I
So that's
find
the
that makes me
pursuit right there.
a happy guy.
That,
Yeah.
that that's why I wanted to do this. One, I wanted everybody to meet the guy who makes all my videos look good and makes me look good on screen. And also, if I don't know if you know this about how impactful your work has been on me in the last 6 months. So, as people will know by now, I left OnRamp Invest, which was the startup I was at. And the reason I did that was I wanted to have more time for myself and for my family. Like I was not working out and all these other things. And I have this creative itch inside of me right now. But what was one of the things that made me think more seriously about leaving and moving sooner was when you did the intro to Welcome Back for the Pursuit. And I've told this story to a bunch of people, but there's a moment that I wasn't prepared for. I sent you video of me dancing around the office to Mesa's song and having fun and just being myself. And then it cuts away to like three screens, like the screens in thirds of me recording a podcast. And I could see the sparkle in my eye and like the happiness on my face. Like we don't get to see ourselves very often
Yeah.
when we're, for lack of a better term, I talk about spark from the movie Soul. When we're like having a spark moment, we don't get to see that. But I got to see it and I was like, holy shit, I need to be doing more podcasting. Like I need to make more time to create content because I love my career, but that's like when I'm at my happiest and enjoying it the most. Like I could do that all the time. So that video clip you sent me was really instrumental in me moving along faster towards getting to a position where I have more time to create content and do the stuff that I really enjoy. So that was really cool. But going back to what you're doing in the pursuit, like you've taken, I don't even know how old you are, but I know you're younger than me. So at a younger age than you've figured out what makes you the happiest. And rather than like try to squeeze it in, you've put it in the center of your life and you've built your life around that. You've built your business, your career, your spending habits, all around supporting your ability to surf, which I've only surfed once. I didn't get up on the board, but it's something I want to learn how to do. My buddy Kay, who you've I think edited some of our podcasts before, same thing. He surfs every day. So I'm going out to LA, I think next month, to go hang with him for the day. And I'm catching an early flight so I can go try to surf for the morning and then we can do some work type stuff. But I
Nice.
just want to point out early, you figured out what you wanted, and rather than going down the path that you thought you were supposed to go down, go to school, work the corporate job, travel when you can, and like have some fun. It was like, all right, I don't want that. I want to have fun all of the time, and then let the work be the secondary thing. What did mom and dad say when you decided to do that? Like what was the pushback from family? Because I think a lot of people are afraid for what our loved ones are going to say, and oftentimes our loved ones want to talk us out of doing that because of their own limitations, and they love us and they don't want us to fail, and they don't realize that this is success for you right now. Success for you isn't making boatloads of money like you were before. It was having the freedom and flexibility. And my guess is you're going to be able to go make more money in the future when you want to. But
Yeah.
going back to family, like what did they say, and then how did you overcome that feedback from your loved ones?
So they're actually a lot better than I thought they were going to be. Both at the beginning, where like my mom's a pretty conservative thinker, not like a big risk taker or anything like that. So she was a little, I guess, shocked and maybe scared that like, what if this doesn't work out? You're kind of maybe throwing away like a really good job with a really good future, pension, all that crap. My dad, the same thing. He was kind of like, "Are you stupid? Like so many people would love the job that you have, and you're just gonna go like live like a bum on a beach." And I was like, "Yeah." But then, so I told them maybe like I don't know, maybe 9 months before I eventually left, and then all of a sudden, like a couple months leading up to it, they both started to get more and more on board. Like my dad would talk to friends and he'd be like, "Yo, like this is what my son's doing," and they'd be like, "What?" like I would fucking kill to have done that in my life. Like, and
Mm-hmm.
I think it slowly started to kind of like turn his thought process towards it. And the same with my mom. I think when she started to see how kind of happy I was about it and stuff, she was just like, she realized that it was probably a good thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then now they're totally like completely on board. Like I think they see um, how like happy and content I am with where I am in my life. Like I still don't make what I made before, but the other thing is like when you live in Mexico in a little beach town, you don't need $3,000-4,000 a month
Mm-hmm.
to live. You need like $1,500, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not like I'm flying and traveling all the time. Like I usually find spots and I kind of make it my home for a long, like 4, 6, 9 months type of thing, and
Mm-hmm.
it cuts down costs quite a bit. But yeah, they're totally on board now. So it's not as bad. Like I feel like I was really scared to tell them, and I'm sure a lot of people are probably scared to do the same thing. But you never know. Like you might get lucky. They might be like, oh, cool, that sounds like a good idea.
Well, when you told them and you were thinking about, because I'm sure part of your decision making process is like, what if this doesn't work out? What's worst case scenario? What was the worst case scenario for you? Like, what was your thought process that gave you the confidence to say, I'm gonna go do it, and if I fail, no big deal. Like, how'd you work through that yourself?
Yeah, so I gotta give like a huge shout out to my parents here for this. Like they didn't, not that they like paid for anything for me, but I knew that if worst came to worst, I would have a place to sleep at least.
Mm-hmm.
um, and they wouldn't be kind of like kicking me out the door. So I think, I don't know that I thought about that a whole lot, but I think kind of subconsciously or in the back, it made me a lot more accepting of the fact that I might fail.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I've always kind of been the type of person, like I have no fear of failure really. Like I've screwed up a lot of different little ventures that I've done in my life, plenty of side projects. And at the end of the day, I find it's a cheaper learning experience than college or university. So, um, big fan of failure, I guess. And I just I don't know, I just knew that I'd land on my feet if it didn't work out. And honestly, it didn't for the longest time. I was ridiculously broke and in debt for a while after I started because I'd never run my own business before. I didn't, I was used to a steady paycheck and it was a lot of new stuff I had to figure out, finding clients, keeping clients, all that stuff. So it was a huge learning process, but it's kind of what I love about it. It's like a big puzzle you get to figure out as you go.
I definitely think that what you've done requires a certain like personality trait. Like, it's not for everybody, which like this podcast isn't for everybody, but for the people that have this is it. So I like, if somebody's listening thinking there's no way I could do it, like maybe you can, and that's okay. And the reality of it is we need people who have different personality traits to make the world work. Like if everybody was like you, who was content, living a life that was maybe tilted more towards leisure than work, like we're not gonna have buildings be built because you got to
Yeah.
work hard you got to work not hard, you got to work long hours to make that happen.
Yeah.
You can be efficient to get what you need to be done and work wherever you need. All you need is Wi-Fi. So I only drop that in for somebody's listening that's like, I could never do that. We're I'm not suggesting everybody should. I'm suggesting if you have that in you or you think you have it in you, you need to explore it. And I love the fact that you were honest that it didn't work out at first and you actually went into debt to make it all happen. But I also think that what I've learned, and I think you probably have learned, is that optimism and a belief in yourself is a part of a pursuit. Like you've got to believe in yourself. Did you have a point where you said, if this happens, it's time to go back? Or were you just like trusting your gut?
Uh, I don't know because like I came pretty close to kind of running out of credit at one point, but I don't know, like things just kind of worked out. Um, I'm also the type of person that, because the one thing I was going to say with what you were saying just before is that to do this also, like to follow like any sort of passion, you don't have to do it as aggressively as I did. Like you don't have to quit your job and move to a different country and figure it all out on the fly with a limited amount of money. You can kind of put your feet in the water type of thing. Like you could start your own little side hustles and stuff like that and see if you like the journey of it. But for me, I find that I don't ever really get a whole lot done until I'm kind of really immersed in it and down to the wire. Like it's not nothing really ever clicked for me until it was like, hey, like you maybe only have a couple more months before you have to go back to your old life. And then all of a sudden I'm working 13, 14 hours a day trying to put things together, right? So that's just the way I find that I work best. But yeah, I don't know. I guess to answer your question, I don't know that there was really a point. I guess if I ran out of money, I'd have to go home.
Mm-hmm.
But luckily that never happened.
Right. I'm a believer that the reason things just happen to work out is because you were following your passion, and that was the center. Like that's a big belief of mine is when you find that passion and what it is, and the passion doesn't have to necessarily be a specific thing. For you, it was a lifestyle. It was flexibility, the ability to travel, and then surfing became a part of it. Now that's a big part of your story, but because you were following your genuine interest and you know, to sound corny, you're following your heart. I
Yeah.
think that that's where you're supposed to be going. Like that's what the pursuit is about. It's following that thing or those things that call you the most. And if you follow those, I believe things work themselves out. Now, it's important to understand they don't work out smoothly and there's challenges which you experienced and you shared, but my guess is those 13-hour days of work weren't that bad and it wasn't that much of a sacrifice because it allowed you to do your passion. And that's what people I like passion, following your passion and pursuing those things comes with hard work. But when you're following that passion and it's for whatever that is, that hard work doesn't seem as hard. But
Yeah.
doing hard work in a job or a life that you hate, that's when it seems like hard work, I think. I'm as we're talking, I'm listening to your story. I shared with you my plans to spin the pursuit out of All About Your Benjamins. This is going to be the first episode on the new one. I'm going to hold on to it
All
because
right.
everything that we've gotten to up to this point, the first 15 minutes or so, embodies what this whole journey of the pursuit is about. So you're my first episode on the new channel that I'm going to start. Um,
Nice.
but getting back to your story, it sounds like you went all in pretty quick. How did you plan, or what planning went into it?
Um, again, not see the weird thing was that when I left, I kind of left with I had saved up money, so I had kind of bankrolled myself for a bit. Um, and I wasn't 100% sure really whether I would just be like on an 8 month, 1 year long vacation and then go back to my job because when I told my job that like when I told my company that I was quitting, they told me if you ever like I did well for them, so they were like if you ever come back or want to come back, you have a place here. So I knew I had that. But after a couple months of living, like working on stuff for yourself and going and traveling and doing what I wanted to do, I realized that there was no way in hell that I could ever go back to my old way of life.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, I guess to try to make it a reality, it was just a lot of kind of trial and error. I didn't really know where to start. Like luckily I was in the place I was living in Bali called Canggu is full of people doing the same sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of it's a little washed out, but it's kind of a cool place to go and like you get to meet so many people that are maybe 2 years down the road than further down the road than you, and you
Mm-hmm.
get to kind of pick their brain of like that's how I found out about Upwork and stuff like Fiverr. And I started honestly doing stuff for free or for like $2 on those platforms just so I could build up a portfolio and kind of get paid minimally to learn stuff like Photoshop and Illustrator and all that. Because I never learned any of this stuff other than just doing it
Mm-hmm.
for like half the time. Like there's a bunch of stuff that I do maybe in your one of your videos and I have no idea how to do it and I'm YouTubing trying to figure out how to do it. So it was just as far as like the business was concerned, it was just massive trial and error. Like there was so much stuff that didn't work. There was so much time dumped into things that didn't work. And money sometimes too, but sometimes you got to figure out what doesn't work, I think, to narrow down the things that you really got to go forward and make happen. if that makes any sense at all. I think I just kind of rambled around that.
Yeah, no. There's a book that I'm listening to and reading that's going to be a foundation for like a mini series that me and two other advisors are going to do on All About Your Benjamins. And I think it's called like the Innovations Manifesto or something like that. And basically, what you're talking about doing is what this whole book is. So it's a professor, and it's basically like you're always like doing small beta tests to figure
Yeah.
out what you want to do, where you want to go. You have a thesis, you go try to test it, and then you get feedback to determine do you keep going or not. And I think so many people think they have to have everything planned out all the way, when maybe you just need to have the first couple steps planned, go that far, get feedback, and then make your next couple steps plan and kind of test things and go. So it's interesting that I just learned about the book. I met with both of them yesterday to kind of plan the podcast. And just looking back at all of our careers, we had been doing all this before even reading this book, of just kind of like beta test all the time and then let that kind of continue to move you forward or have you pivot to go to do something else.
Yeah. I would be surprised if that's like a major component for either successful businesses or successful people, like the people
Mm-hmm.
that are willing to just constantly take those small losses, I guess, but in order to realize, like, to get all the information from it, right? Like, you
Yep.
just learn so much when you just, if every week you screw something else up, or something
Yeah.
doesn't work, as long as you don't keep doing it,
Yep.
then you're golden.
Well, and most things that we're afraid to fail at or screw up are like minor. They're not going to be anything that's long standing, that's a big deal. We're just afraid to, like, we're taught you need to have A's and you need to do good work and don't make mistakes. So like we're conditioned. And then to your point earlier, you're not afraid to fail. I think it was 2 weeks ago or last week's episode of Pursuit, failure is not an option, because like
Yeah.
you're learning every time. So I do think that welcoming failure, I don't think you set out with the intent to fail. I just think you set out without the fear of failing, because in every failure, you're going to learn something. What
Yeah.
would you do different? Or not necessarily what would you do different? Okay, what would you do different? And then what would you advise somebody from those answers that might be considering to do this? Like, would you go
Yeah.
do things in a different order, or do anything different, or would you just do it the exact same way?
Uh, it's hard for me to say that I do something different because I don't know. I've always kind of said this, like, I like where I am and who I am, and I know
Mm-hmm.
that, I don't know that I would have figured out what I figured out, maybe a few months ago, if I didn't spend 2 years fighting and screwing up at something to learn the
Mm-hmm.
lessons. So,
Mm-hmm.
but I guess if I like was to package, I guess, my knowledge to give to someone to start so that they didn't have to screw up as much. Um, I think like making like small, the way I would go at it now is like, instead of being like, okay, like I want to make, when I started, it was like, okay, I want to make enough money to cover my expenses. That was kind of my goal. And then I just went off and did 1,000 different things. And I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't really focused on anything in particular. I think what I should have done and what I try to do now is like, if your goal when you start is like you just got to get your first client, like focus on like that's your only goal. Don't worry about like how much you're making or anything. And then break down from that, like maybe there's 5 different ways, like go learn different ways to get clients, and then just start trying different methods to get that one small goal done. And then once you get that, then from there learn how to keep the client, like learn how to talk with the client. Like I feel like a lot of people just try to learn everything they're going to need to learn
Mm-hmm.
before they start.
Mm-hmm.
And first of all, you don't really know what you need to know. Like
Mm-hmm.
a big fan of like, you don't know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you just gotta like kind of like take it one step at a time, I think. And you say it a lot when you're talking with your dad on the next episode, where like you don't really need to have it all planned out. You just need to know like where you're putting like that next step basically, and then just
Mm-hmm.
figure it out from there. But that being said, I know that that probably doesn't work with the way a lot of people are hardwired.
But that's okay. This isn't this. This is for the people who are hardwired, that are close to doing it. Or I think there are a lot of, what I've learned is through having conversations like this, like pursuit and passion comes up in almost every conversation because I'm just so obsessed with it. More people, I believe, are hardwired that way. They're just afraid,
That's
because when
true.
I start talking about it, I can see them light up and then start contributing to the conversation of things that they've seen or they've wanted to try, but then they get pulled back. And this is where for the longest time, when people talked about like we live in the matrix or like a simulation, I was like too kindergarten in the way I was thinking about. Like I always go, well, we're not living in these pods and like in a video game. But what I finally realized is like the matrix or the simulation is we're conditioned by our parents and society to think certain things are the way we're supposed to go. And like that's the simulation, is that you've got to go to school and you've got to go have a job and you've got to have 2 kids. And like so many people fall into that. And I think so many people should, but there are a lot of us that are like looking for that red pill. The red pill is the one they take, right? In the matrix.
I
I don't know
never
what color
know,
it is.
to be honest.
Whatever the pill is that takes them outside. Like there's a lot of people who are wanting to take that. They just don't know. It's like they need permission. They need to hear
Yeah.
your story. They need to identify with somebody else that's done something similar to what they want to do, to see that they can do it, to give them the courage to take that first step. And then once they realize, hey, this is a possibility, and to your point, maybe they ease into it. It's not full swing. You start doing something on the side, and that slowly starts to build. And now all of a sudden that grows to a point where it can replace what it is you want to leave from. And then
Yeah.
you keep growing and it's better. But um, I think more people are hardwired that way than we realize and that they realize. And hopefully we can help them by having these stories be told, having your story be told, and planting seeds for them to find, but also speak to the people that are right there ready to go do it. They just need that story to get them excited and inspire them, and then they go do it.
Yeah.
A cool story, I was meeting with one of my clients, that her story is awesome, and she retired, moved to Arizona, and just completely following what she wants to do. And she told me that she has 2 of her friends that said that she inspired them to look at their finances more closely and make some changes to be able to retire earlier because they see how happy and fulfilled she is. And I'm like, how I told her, I said, how cool is it
Yeah.
to inspire somebody? Like to know that somebody changed their life for the better because of seeing you or hearing your story. Like we're gonna get feedback from this that you're gonna inspire probably some younger guy, of course. Like it's going to be a young white dude that's going to hear this, that's going to be inspired by it. But hopefully we inspire a young woman or somebody else. But your story is going to inspire somebody to take that engineering job that they're doing or the web design job that they're doing for a corporation and go do their own thing and live life on their terms and create a better life. Um,
Yeah.
is is part of your plan? I don't know, maybe it's not this far along. Do you want to grow your freelance business to be something bigger, or like do one day you want to have a bigger firm, or do you just kind of want to stay nimble as long as you can see?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm starting to kind of get to a place with it now where it's starting to grow decently well. I've had situate like in the past I've had people working um with me too that do like some of the work, and but then ended up kind of like downsizing and not needing me more. But the thing is, like, I see, like, when I travel, I usually travel, stay in a house with like a few friends that I've met either traveling or like, I still travel with my buddy from home that I went to Bali with. But you get to see like other people, similar situation to me, but like maybe they're very meeting focused and they have like 4 or 5 meetings a day, and there's that where they get to live wherever they want, but they're still like kind of nailed down to a pretty strict schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's me, who if I look out the window at 11 a.m. or 2 p.m. and the surf's good, I just leave and go do it. Like
Mm-hmm.
I have like maybe one meeting a week.
Mm-hmm.
um so, and I realized that like if I was to bring on a team and do stuff at a larger scale, it'd be more people management and stuff like that, and it would require more of a time commitment for me. At like, now if I want, I can surf all day and then work all night. But you can't do that if you have people, I think, that rely on you. So, not saying that I don't want to do that, and that may change in a couple of years. But at the moment, I'm still pretty in love with the fact that I can, if I don't want to work one morning, I don't work that morning, and there's
Mm-hmm.
nobody that needs me for anything at a specific time. So I don't really know yet.
That's fair. Just
Yeah.
hey, let your gut, let your intuition, let it guide you. You'll know when the time is to build something bigger if you want to. But I totally understand the not wanting to have a big team because of the impact it has on your freedom.
Yeah.
I learned that I want to stay small and nimble, just so I have the freedom to do whatever I want. Try new things, do less. So I appreciate that, and I would encourage you to keep your freedom as long as possible.
Yeah. I
Um,
also like I'm constantly trying to do other stuff too. So I like
mhm,
that I have enough time in my day that if I find another side project or I have a friend that wants to do something with me, it's like I can put 2 or 3 hours a day for a few weeks into figuring out if it'll work out. So
mhm,
I like because like not that I don't think I actually have ADHD, but like when it comes to work, like I'm always excited about new things more than the things
mhm,
that I'm already doing.
mhm,
So I like the ability to like try something new, like go
mhm,
spend my time learning about something that I might do. So I think I'll probably always try to keep that option open, but who knows?
mhm. Of all the, so to get kind of close to the end, as of all the places you've been, where's your favorite place to live and travel to?
Uh, I don't know. As far as like the lifestyle of where I lived, Bali was pretty wild. I think also because it was kind of like what popped my cherry for this whole type of living.
Mhm,
But I don't know. They've all had kind of different effects on my life and met different people in different spots. So
mhm,
it's kind of hard to nail it down. But I think one of the funnest like trips I've had, one of like take away like the living lifestyle, but just places I've been was
mhm.
Vietnam was pretty
Okay.
wild.
Okay.
Yeah. Rode a I did like a 4 day motorcycle trip through the northern mountains there, and
Oh, wow.
it was like one of the coolest things. I fell off my motorcycle twice though, so I had never ridden
Luckily,
a
you didn't get hurt too
motorcycle
bad.
before.
That's a good place to learn.
Yeah, it's funny because
Where?
you go over there, you don't even need a license. They're just like, yeah, if you want it, take it. It's like, okay.
Wow. Where would you want it? Where do you want to go? What's a bucket list place? The one place you want to go?
Still never been to Europe, so I want to spend some time there. But unfortunately, summers are big in Europe, and that's when the surf is kind of crappy there. So I don't, it'd be wetsuit surf, which I can do at home in Canada. But
Hmm.
um, I don't know. I really want to go to Hawaii, just because, like, a lot of famous surf breaks there. I'd like to, not that I can surf most of them, but some of them I would. And I don't know. Maybe Japan.
Okay. Well,
Surf and snowboarding
whenever
might
I'm
be able
able
to
to
be cool.
get up on a board, we'll have to find somewhere that has like easy waves, and we'll meet up somewhere and surf.
For sure,
I
man.
find myself I follow some like surf pages on Instagram, and I can just watch people riding waves for hours. It's so amazing. Like, and then you get the ones where they're riding like the 100-foot waves. I can't even fathom that. Like that stuff is
Oh,
just bonkers.
that's crazy. I actually, it was like 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago, when I was in Ecuador, caught the longest wave of my life, like hands down. Like it was probably like, I don't know, good like 30 or 40 seconds,
Wow.
maybe 300 to 400 yards, like all the way into the beach. Like when I finished it, I was literally just like lying on my back in the water, just like holding my face, like, what the?
That's awesome.
It was a cool moment. Also
There's a
got
dude.
barreled in Ecuador for the first time in my life too.
The, there's a dude on Instagram. Austin Keen's his name. He
Yeah,
does like the skimboarding stuff, but he
skimboarding,
like skimboards into surfing. It's pretty awesome. Like
yeah.
I don't like. I've lived in the Midwest my whole life, and I love the ocean and the beach, but I've never done anything like that. But I'm fascinated, like, and I just have this obsession that I want to learn how to surf. So one of these days we'll catch some waves. Um, any closing thoughts before I ask you my final question for everybody?
Uh, I guess like the one thing I'd say, I think like the most important thing to kind of trigger um living for yourself more is to start asking yourself like why you're doing what you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
or why you want what you want. Because I think a lot of people, I was talking to my buddy about this a couple days ago. They just like, it's like they're like, I need to buy a house, I need to have kids, and I need to get married, and I need to do it in a certain order. And if you say like, well, why? Like why? Like I'm never saying that's a bad thing, but like why is it that you want to, buy a house before you have kids and all this? And people, a lot of the answers are just because like that's just the way that they were raised, right? Like
The
your parents say
Matrix.
that, TV says that, teachers say that. So I think when you start asking yourself like, well, why do I care about having, a steady paycheck and stuff? Like there's a lot of good reasons to have that, but I didn't actually have any good ones when I was 26 years old. It was like I've got plenty of time to screw up and live with friends to save money, and I don't need to be making a ton of money right now. And I think when you start doing that, you start to realize that maybe what you're doing isn't actually what you want. And it starts opening up kind of some avenues to make that happen.
I have a blog post I've been sitting on that's just what you described. I can't figure out how to get it started. But the only thing I'll add to that, because I think that's great and it doesn't need more commentary, the real answer is usually like 3 or 4 whys deep. So like the first time you say why, you need to question why to that, and then question why to that. And like as you go further down on numbers of whys, then eventually you really get to the real root of what it is that you want. So I would just challenge to definitely do what Tyler said, to ask why, but then ask why a couple more times and dig deeper. So you're a keynote speaker for being well known for living your best life and creating things and taking risks. You come out on stage. Like, what's the song that you're going to come out the stage on to set the tone for your presentation?
Yeah. So obviously I knew that this one was coming, so I put some thought into it. And actually, it's a song that I don't really listen to a whole lot, but whenever I hear it, it just gets me so amped up. And I feel like it'd be a good crowd amp up too. But "Grown Up" by Danny Brown.
Okay.
There's a line in it too. It's kind of like old school feel, like hip hop to it. But there's a line in it that says like, "Whoever thought I'd be the greatest growing up," and I don't know, I just kind of like that because came from an elementary school background where I've probably had a bunch of teachers that thought that I would not amount to a whole lot. So,
right. Well, awesome. Well, hey man, I first off appreciate all of the great work you do for me, for my ventures. I'm glad that we got connected. Like we talked about earlier, like we were meant to get to know each other and work together. I have a feeling that unless you decide you don't like doing the work that you do with me anytime soon, that this is only going to continue to go. So first off, just publicly thank you for all of that. And if anybody needs a connection, I don't want you getting too busy, but I'm happy to refer some more business to you to keep you doing well. But then also I want to thank you for coming on and, being vulnerable and sharing your journey, because like I said, somebody's going to hear this episode and they're going to be inspired to ask why, or now that they already know why, to actually give that a chance. And I fully believe deep down in my heart that like when you give that thing a chance, good things end up happening and you end up finding ways to make whatever that is a bigger part of your life, which ultimately leads to so many great things across the board. So I appreciate you contributing to my mission to help more people do what you've done.
Hey man, thanks for having me on, and I appreciate all the work you send my way. So
yeah, definitely. So when do you head out of Canada and back to the surf?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I didn't really, I don't have an exit date for Canada yet, so still trying to figure some stuff out. Might go out west in Canada too. There's really good surf out in Tofino, like in BC. So I've never been out west in my own country, but I've been everywhere else. So I don't know.
Well, periodically we'll have to just check in with the backdrop, see where you're at, get some surf reports, and see how you're doing. So, man, I appreciate again the time and all the work that you do for me, and looking forward to continuing to follow you on your pursuit.
All right, man. Well, thank you.
Thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you all in the next episode, and let's keep on this pursuit. But these blunt raps shown up. Whoever thought I'd be the greatest growing up. Yeah, wishing that